So I went to see him for the first time when he was a few hours old, and because it was night time, it was dark in the rooms, and this is one of the reasons why I would always encourage parents to go and have a look at the unit before their baby's born if they get the chance, because it was overwhelming is a bit of an understatement. So it was dark, but obviously the blue lights were on, and there was machines and beeps and wires and tubes, and then just this tiny little baby underneath it all, and lots of people around him. And the weirdest thing that we didn't expect was that his incubator was full of humidity, and it was we didn't know why that was, and they kept wiping it as well to see. It was the most bizarre experience. And then when they said I could touch him, the nurse just got me to wash my hands and everything else, and I was in a wheelchair, and he felt really sticky like jelly, and I didn't expect that. And his eyes were fused, and he had no nipples, and he just didn't look anything like I'd expected him to look, and that was really traumatic. It was awful actually, and because they had been really honest and spoke about how fragile he was and how it was hour by hour. While I was there, I kept thinking he might die there and then while I was there, and I struggled with that. Didn't want that to happen at all. I wanted to not be in the room. So we went back to our room. They put us on antenatal for the night because it got quite late, and they'd let Gareth stay, which was really helpful. And I couldn't sleep, and he could sleep, but I kept waking him up and making him go back down to make sure that he was still alive, because I couldn't physically bring myself to go, even though I was physically fine. I was up and about. So Gareth slept really well, and I stayed awake all night. And then first thing in the morning, Gareth went back down and come back with a report, and that went on for quite a while. He was getting sent to go, and I wouldn't go, even though I wanted to. And then I did go. My mum and dad turned up with Daisy, who was 16 months old. So that was interesting. And we all went down to see him. I had my dressing gown and my slippers on, and I bumped into someone I knew on the corridor, and that was weird. And then my mum and dad got really upset, and that was really difficult because they was upset and I needed them to be strong, and that was bizarre. And it was just really stressful. The first day was really stressful because it seemed like everything was going wrong. It was 1 minute it was okay, and then something else had happened, and I felt a bit like nobody was looking after me, because when we wasn't on the unit, we was in our room on antenatal, and the midwives didn't really come in. They just did my obs every now and again, and I just felt a bit isolated. Like I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what my role was. And then the afternoon after he'd been born, somebody came and spoke to me about expressing, and I had no idea why I would possibly do that, or that even I could. But she bought me a really big pot to express in, and I found that stressful because I tried to do it and there was like a drop in it and I couldn't see it. So I went back to the unit, and there was a really lovely nurse, and she gave me a syringe, and she took me in the breastfeeding room and she showed me how to hand express, but that didn't happen on maternity, so that was quite stressful. And then it was a bit of a whirlwind, and there was some comedy moments as well, but they were really stressful. My breast pump, I washed a bit of it down the sink and I started crying. I got really upset because I was feeling quite irrational, and I thought that I was going to block all the sinks in the unit and things would start spouting out, and I was crying and I wouldn't tell them. So I made Gareth go and tell them, and they thought that was quite funny because he said it just happens all the time. People just do that all the time. It was just very surreal, and I just didn't know what to do. And I think those first 2 days were where we felt the most desperate, because we didn't know what our role was. Gareth went and registered his birth and opened him a bank account, and we didn't even know if he was going to live, and it was just, we just did not know what to do. So what I found really strange was the first couple of days when we were in the room 1, I was looking around and all these mums were having cuddles, but the babies were being put down their tops, and I'd never seen any. I knew what skin to skin was, but I'd never seen anything like it, and I kept wondering if I would have to do that, or if I was going to be able to do that. And I wanted to cuddle him, but I didn't want to cuddle him because I was scared. But I also felt like it was a really stupid question, so I never asked about cuddling him. So I never really had any contact with him, because I didn't want to touch him in case I had germs on my hands or if I hurt him. But nobody really talked to me about positive touch or containment holding, or even said, so you know, you can't have a cuddle now, but in a couple of days or a couple of weeks or whatever. It just wasn't mentioned, so I didn't mention it because I felt really stupid asking the question.